I'm not sure. I mean, had Danny Houghton been fit at the moment, then he's possibly one that I would think of. But apart from that, I'm not actually convinced, given performances, that anybody else would particularly merit a spot.
Yeah, the two other players from outside of is that just because of reaction to the Leeds game? Because Jamie, when the squad was announced, Jamie Shaw was, it was a big outcry from your lot, the black and whites, that is ridiculous that he's not in the England performance squad. So
He's had a poor start to the season, to be honest. It wasn't just the Leeds match.
fair
Um,
enough, fair enough.
yeah, I mean, last season I thought really he should have been in it, but he's just not delivered this season yet. He seems to be out of position. He, I don't know whether he's got the wrong size studs in or what, but he doesn't seem to be able to stand up.
Well, that would be a problem. Although another player who seems to like fall over a lot and stuff is Stefan Ratchford. He's managed to keep his place in the squad. He's been okay for Warrington, but okay for Warrington is meaning you're a bottom half of the table
Yeah, they're in eighth,
performer.
aren't they?
The big two maybe that have been talked about as well elsewhere is Paul McShane, um, the cat hooker. Now, in my
Yeah.
opinion, as good as he was last year, and he's working hard this year and he's playing okay, I just don't think he's as good as those players above him. So I wouldn't see him getting into the England squad ahead of maybe four or five other hookers ahead of him when everyone's fully fit. So it would seem pointless for me putting him
I
in.
think he played well last season, but then you could level that at any cast player last season. They all looked good.
Yeah, well, there's lots of other cast players that maybe aren't in, like Greg Eden. He's not anywhere around the
Well,
the
that's
squads.
understandable.
Yeah, your dad's had a word, hasn't he, with
Yeah.
with Bennett and made sure that mistake doesn't happen. And Sam Tompkins is the other one that everyone's talking about now. From my perspective, I've watched every game he's played this year, and he's looked really good. Um, Jigging about positions a little bit. Whether he would, I don't see how Ratchford is in this squad ahead of Sam Tompkins. That I would say that, but that's more a reflection on Stefan Ratchford than the makeup of this squad because we all expect Widdett probably to retain his fullback position when
Yeah.
all things are considered. So it's it's an underwhelming squad because there's not a lot of new names and there's lots of players in there who I just feel haven't performed necessarily at the top level or have had shite starts to the season,
There's
quite
not
bluntly.
really anyone that you look at and you're excited about seeing in an England shirt, is there?
No, that's well, other than Jerry McGilvray, I'm excited to see him all the time. And Stevie Ward, I think, has been really good when fit. But yeah, none of the other players. There's nothing. Even Tom Johnson's inclusion, that just feels like, well, if he didn't get injured last year, he would have been included then. So it's not. I'm not like licking my lips at the idea of him beating
No.
the world.
Although I suppose maybe a wing partnership, wingers of McGilvery and Johnston at least gives us some speed on the wings if we had the.
Yeah, and well, I mean, Johnson's an incredibly skilled player, but then one thing he doesn't do as well is the exit set stuff that
Mm.
the Australian coaches love, the sort of
Yeah,
boring exit
yeah.
set stuff. Right, do you want to take us through the Knights squad then?
Yes. So, um, following the confirmed return of England Knights, head coach Paul Anderson has also selected a 25-man Knights performance squad. They last played in 2013, but return as part of the newly formed England Performance Unit, led by rugby director Kevin Sinfield. This aims to develop more world-class England players for all senior squads for the 2021 and 2025 Rugby League World Cups. Every English Super League club is represented in the night squad, and they're joined by 23-year-old hooker James Cunningham, who currently plays for Championship side London Broncos. So these consist of Minikin and Truman from Castleford, Cruz Leeming at Huddersfield, Josh Bowden, Jake Connor, Dean Hadley, Massey Matonga, and Jamie Scholl for Hull FC, Chris Atkin at Rovers, Liam Sutcliffe and Jack Walker from Leeds, James Cunningham from London, Niall Eccles from Salford, Danny Richardson and Luke Thompson at St Helens, Reese Lynn from Wakefield, Jack Hughes from Warrington, and then Tom Gilmore, Danny Walker, Matt Whitley from Widnes, and Joe Burgess, Tom Davies, Oliver Gildart, Sam Powell, and Ryan Sutton from Wigan. Feedback on this, Mark at Wilco2205 says, pleasantly surprised to see Cruz in there. A lot of competition for the hooker spot, but you could easily make the EPS one day. And Alan Cale, who's at Shoddy and Munger, said you could make a decent looking 17 from the night squad if a bit light at 6/7. David Cantrell at Dr. Hideous said, very pleased that they've obviously taken the time to look at championship players, even if only one made the cut. Paul Michael Craig offers a different take. He says, I'm against the whole night concept. People in Ireland won't turn up and watch an England B-side and will probably stop Irish players committing as well. But David Cantrell replies to that and says, to be fair, people in Ireland won't turn up to watch League at all. I'm glad it exists. Having a larger pool of players that have trained outside just their club can only improve both the England team and club rugby. And Craig Cathcart, who's at Original Mr. C, says, that's a decent looking squad. They should definitely have regular fixtures versus Ireland, Wales, Scotland and France.
Yeah, there's a few interesting points to pick up then already in the feedback, and the first one is, who are they going to play? I suppose.
Yeah.
I mean, Dave makes a good. Paul and Dave sort of make a good point that they're bouncing around there. That the idea maybe that these other home nations countries won't necessarily be a big ticket sell, that they're playing against a England backup side. I kind of sympathise with that thought process. I still don't think it should hold them back from being in a tournament with these teams. I think one thing that should have been like cut out is any of these players that could have played and might have chosen to play for one of the other home nations. They should have had that conversation with them first before putting them in to the night squad, because you don't want these players thinking, I'll play for the Knights over a Scotland, over a Ireland, over a Wales, because that'll hold back the ability to sell the game to those countries, and we need to sell the game to those countries much more than we need to have some of these players playing in an England reserves team. So, I mean, I'm not quite counting Zimbabwe in there. I don't think we could put together a full 13 of Matty Matongos, but
no. I mean, he's got a younger brother, but I'm not sure that there's much more Zimbabwean talent.
Well, Cruz Leeming's from Swaziland, isn't he? So I suppose we could start looking at is Swaziland in Africa, an all African or an all world side that they could have played for. But no, with people like that, it makes sense. But I do sympathise with the thought process of getting them into the different national teams. Games against get in that sort of a tournament though, where you're not the Knights aren't playing as one-off isolated fixtures; they're playing as part of a tournament. I think that helps raise the standard of those tournaments. With an extra team in there with extra quality. So I think that. What do you think about what Alan said about being a bit light at 6 and 7 in terms of the options there? Because there's Truman, there's Atkin.
Well, I've noted down Truman, Connor, Atkin, Richardson, and Powell.
Yeah, and Tom Gilmore.
Yeah, 5 or 6 that sort of I noticed that could play there.
Sutcliffe potentially could play in the halves. I think there's plenty of cover there.
Yeah, I think there's some
I've got to disagree with Alan.
Yeah. Do you think it was do you think it was a straight look across the board, or do you think it was definitely that they were going to pick at least one player from each team?
I do think that was part of it. I mean, you look at Chris Atkin. I mean, he's had a really nice start in Super League. I like watching him play. But I never would. He's 25 years old already. I'd never see him I just don't ever see him quite getting to the level of being an international class player. So it seems a little bit like crowbarring someone in. Although I suppose they've avoided what we talked about. Like they could have crowbarred someone in who might have qualified for Scotland, like Young Oaks or someone like that. So that is a positive move from what we were saying there. Yes, similarly, like. There's a few older players in there, isn't there? Jack Hughes is 26 now. You'd think if it was going to happen for Jack Hughes, it'd have happened.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how old Reece Lynn is, but I mean, he's been around quite a while now.
25, yeah, and Josh Bowden's 2016, Hadley's 25. Now, I'm not knocking these players, and I'm certainly not saying that they don't deserve some sort of recognition for the performances that they've put in, but I, I was expecting this squad to kind of be 23 and under, and there's
Yeah,
I
it's an
count one,
interesting one,
two,
isn't it? Like,
three, I count seven players that are 25 and over.
given that it says it's to develop more world-class players for squads in 2021 and 2025. I mean, 2025, that's 7 years away. You're talking about some of these players being into their early 30s.
Yeah, and I think I mean, at 25, 26 years old, I think we know Sam Powell, Reece Lynn, Jack Hughes. They're not going to be. They're very good Super League players. They're not going to be world class players, I don't think. I just
No.
haven't seen them improve enough. Reece Lynn actually has got a lot better in the last 12 months or so, and finally looks like a proper centre for his winger. But
Yeah.
whereas he used to look like I didn't understand why he was put in centres because he didn't seem to be able to defend there or attack there. But now, in the last 12 months or so, he has stepped up a gear there. But you don't see these players, do you?
No, I mean, if Reece Lynn was suddenly named in your England 17, you'd worry, wouldn't you?
Very much so. Is there any of these players that you think maybe were unlucky based on early season form not to actually get called up to the EPS, not the KPS, all these acronyms?
Um, I think it's probably a fairly fair second choice squad. I mean, I liked what I've seen of Danny Richardson, but again, I think he probably needs a bit of time.
Yeah, I mean he's only had a dozen or so first grade games, hasn't he? But he does look a talent. I remember watching him play for Saints against Wigan in an under-19s academy final a couple of seasons ago, and he absolutely ran the show. Was the best player on the park, and so I expect him to kick on. But would you expect him to jump in ahead of Gale at the moment in the first team? I'm not sure of that.
It's a big what's the word? It'd be a big step, wouldn't it, just to
Yeah,
throw him in?
yeah.
It'd set your marker down. But
One
whether it'd
player,
be good for the player or not is another matter.
one player I think could get in there, and actually maybe there's an argument for saying that he's been better than people like Chris Hill. He's been better than people like Scott Taylor. I know Taylor's had a bit of injury problems. And he's maybe even been better than his teammate Alex Walmsley. Is Luke Thompson. Now I'm starting the campaign right now for quarter of the season. If I was doing a quarter of the season dream team, Luke Thompson would be my first choice prop. And if he doesn't
Joshua
get
will
it,
be with you all the way there.
there you go. Yeah, and Joshua knows his stuff.
His quote on Friday night was, "Oh, Luke Thompson, he's a big lad, isn't he?"
He's really impressive though. He impressed me ever
Yeah,
since Justin Holbrook's got into that Saints outfit and started him in the front row from the start of the games, and he's been absolutely phenomenal. He's probably been as good a prop forward as has been in the competition since Magic
yeah.
Weekend last year. And if there was any player in that list that I think deserves to be in the other list, it it would be Luke Thompson of St Helens.
And of course, Jake Connor, you've missed off.
Well, Jake Connor maybe deserves his own list. I don't know. Like when you look at like the makeup of a squad and you're thinking bringing all these players together from different teams, do you really want one who's pissed off every single person in
He
every
might
single
unite the rest of
opposition
the
team?
team well.
Yeah, he's not there for team cohesion, is he, Jake Connor? Right, we'll move on. I'm going to rattle through a number of news stories here because there's a couple of stories we want to focus on a bit more at the end of the news section. So, Widnes coach Dennis Betts, he's left his role as England assistant coach. The RFL has confirmed. Wayne Bennett, who recently confirmed he would be staying on as head coach for 2 more years, has made changes to his backroom team. Though Paul Wellens and Jamie Peacock, who's assistant coach and team manager respectively, will remain in place, and Chris Black has joined the staff as the human performance lead. It's no real news because we don't know how much impact Dennis Betts have. But one thing he does have impact on is his club, the Widnes Vikings, and they confirmed in the last week that Tom Alberson has signed a full Widnes deal with the club. That's a 2-year deal for the newly initiated to the SLP. The 26-year-old joined the Vikings last year following the demise of Bradford Bulls and has made 32 appearances for them so far. So good bit of Widnes dealings there.
Yep.
Huddersfield Giants centre Sam Wood has signed a new deal to keep him at the club till the end of 2021. That's a 3-season extension. It's quite a long-term deal for a player
It is.
who's not really proved himself at the top yet.
No, no, it's a good deal for him.
Yeah, he's got some security there. Danny Brough